This show is sponsored by Den 10 Insurance Services, helping businesses get the right insurance for all their insurance needs. Visit den10.io to get a quote. DENTEN.io. And remember, when you buy an insurance policy from Den 10, you're giving back on a global scale. Hello, all my entrepreneurs and business leaders, and welcome to the Michael Esposito Show, where I interview titans of industry in order to inform, educate, and inspire you to be great. My guest today meets new people every day. She builds and establishes meaningful relationships, and sometimes those relationships turn into friendships. As a master at networking and connecting people, I'm one of the lucky ones who can call her a friend. She's an account manager at Puro Clean. Please welcome my friend, Miriam Gibbons, or as I get to call her, Mo.
I'm blown away. Thank you very much. That was a fabulous introduction. I'm humbled.
I got it off your website.
I may have to copy that and put that on there. That's fabulous. Thank you very much. And yes, I am lucky to call you my friend.
Yeah, it's really nice. I mean, we're in a lot of networking circles.
Yep.
And it's always nice to walk in a room and know that you have somebody there that you connect with and that you can smile and talk with and also not feel beholden to.
Absolutely.
Where you can still work the room and do what you went there to do.
People don't some people get that. I do have a lot of people that don't get that. They see me and go, oh, there's that familiar face, and they love that. But then they want to just sort of hang out, and I know you. I can talk to you anytime. I will meet you, have coffee, take your phone call, text you, whatever the case may be. I want to meet the new people that are in the room. Mm-hmm. And if you want to come along for the ride, absolutely join me, but I'm not going to stand off on the sidelines and watch what's going on in the room.
Which is part of the reason why I wanted you to come on today is this, I'm going to call it a strategy. It's not necessarily a strategy, but it's definitely a technique or a strategy that people in sales and business that network, that go out to events, could benefit from.
I find that many people, while they are quote out there to network, they're not comfortable. They don't know how to network. They're there because their bosses want them there, but they don't know what to do. Mm-hmm. And I was recently at a convention, and I sat in on a women's growth group. And the funny part was, this wasn't the first time I met with these women. And I talked to them at least twice a month. I'm on a group with them. And there were 7 men in the room. And I said, I have no problem with that, but I thought this was a women's growth group. Well, they see our success and wanted to join, so our women's growth group is no longer women only, it's great because they want to learn. And they broke down the group into different tables, and they put me at the networking table, which I laughed. I said, I should be at a different table. I'm comfortable with this. And what we had to do was come up with our strategies and what we do and what's different. And basically, my strategy is if I go to an event, I need to meet at least 3 people I don't know. And it doesn't matter if what their industry, what they do. I want to meet 3 people I don't know because everybody knows somebody. The other thing is my real key is I look around the room and I want to meet the person that's standing all by themselves on the sidelines and has nobody to talk to and is obviously uncomfortable. I go up to them, introduce myself, find out about them, and this unsure person is now smiling because they're not alone. They now have somebody that they're talking to. So they look, I don't want to say important, but they look involved. Mm-hmm. And I have met some of the most wonderful people. I then take them around the room and introduce them to, who do you want to meet and whatnot. And they're friends for life because they went from I'm the lone man all the way in the corner to, wow, I just met 10 people that I wouldn't have met.
I love that story because that's actually kind of how we met.
Yes.
I was at a networking event, and that's exactly what you said to me was, who do you want to meet? And I was like, I don't know. I didn't know that somebody was going to offer me that.
Well, I mean, everybody I meet, how can I help you? Yeah. If I'm helping you, somebody's going to help me, whether it's that person or somebody that they know, or, I have people that I go to these events and, there could be 300 people. Mm-hmm. And I get an email the next day that says, I tried to talk to you, but you were across the room. And every time I walked in your direction, you were talking with somebody and whatnot. And I said, well, then we need to have coffee. Yeah. So it's by helping others, you're helping yourself. And
I love that other piece that you just said there. And then we need to have coffee, because that's the other thing with networking that is also a skill that you learn, is that you're going there to make connections. And it's up to you to then follow up with those connections, which is something that you do a great job at as well.
I laugh. I'm old-fashioned, and I will get a QR code one of these days. Maybe when my daughter comes home.
I just got one. It's so awesome. I love it.
Well, but I carry business cards everywhere I go. And somebody said to me, this was a networking event, and there was this young couple there, sweet, sort of standing by the side. And I walked over and introduced myself, gave them my card, and I said, "Oh, do you have a card?" Oh, well, they were young. And I said, "No, business cards are things of the past." So I went, okay, I'm dating myself, I guess. I don't know. But I like to keep those cards because I keep them in front of me until I actually take action on them. So I said, okay, well, now you have my card. And the funny thing was, it was a business card exchange. So how do you not bring something that tells about your business, be that as it may? Well, now it's up to you to connect with me when we're done. So he did. He reached out to me, sent me an email. Here's the funny part. I replied to his email, trying to set up a meeting to find out more about them. I had ways I could definitely help them in their business. And the email bounced. So I went to the bottom of his email looking for a phone number. Common sense. No phone number. Well, now I don't have a business card. I have an email that just bounced. Now I hit reply. I didn't copy and paste or type it in wrong. No email, no phone number. Well, how am I going to get in touch with him? So I started calling other people that were at this exchange, thinking maybe somebody else has his phone number. I reached out to someone who said, oh, yes, I spoke to them. Lovely couple, yada, yada. And I have his phone. I'm sure I have his phone number. When I get back to my office, I'll get it for you. Fabulous. Got back to the office. No phone number. No phone number. So I went to their website. Email bounced. They had a different email. That bounced. I finally said, I was on a mission. I needed to contact these people. You have a huge issue with your business. People can't get a hold of you. And on their website, there was no phone number. I don't know who was helping them or whatnot. We did finally meet up at another event, and I went, okay, I'm here to help you. And they said, how? And I said, your email bounced. Oh, no, it couldn't have. Well, when you give me a new email that won't bounce, I said, all I did was, and I explained what I went through to try to get him. Well, something was wrong. He had a major glitch. Of course, he added his phone number and so on and so forth. But it's just funny how people, they don't think necessarily, I like that business card. I'm old fashioned, but I'm going to have a QR code.
Well, we'll talk about your QR code in a second. I want to just talk about what you just went through there. I think so many people fall short in their networking, call it air quotes, endeavor. Yep. In that they meet someone and they follow up one time and they go, you know what, that networking event didn't work out for me. I go to those networking events and I call the people I meet and they don't call me back. And meanwhile, you're telling me about a process with somebody where you emailed, it bounced, you looked for a number, you reached out to another person. And so it's you can't just rely on the networking event to solidify that connection, right?
Correct. Absolutely. No, you need, and that was it. I was on a mission. I was, this is a new business that's desperately hit a roadblock they didn't even know.
They didn't know, yeah.
And that's it. You make a phone call. We get thousands of phone calls. And yes, we're going to call somebody back. And then you get busy. Life takes off in another direction. And you need to follow up.
Yeah.
You sent you made the phone call, you left a message. Maybe they're on vacation, maybe they're not. Send that email, do something else. But I find that most people that they get these collect business cards and do nothing.
Right.
Absolutely nothing.
And so to your point about the business cards, I was one of the people who thought, I'm going to open up Den10 and we're going to be a total digital agency. We're doing no business cards. We're doing none of that stuff. And then I hired my staff and they were like, we need business cards. And now I have them saying, by the way, we need name tags. And I'm like, so we did get business cards.
Good.
And I made sure to get really thick ones, really hardy ones.
Okay.
To make sure. I always say, I want you to feel guilty if you throw it out. I want you to feel like you're really throwing out a tree if you throw it out. But we have their QR code, and so I think you should take a look at it. I was just at the Duchess one that we were just at Hudson Valley Brewery, and someone shared their QR code with me. I think it's Bling.
Okay.
And it's just phenomenal. I've gone through a few of them, and this is the one that right now I'm sticking with. I think it's really cool.
Bling? Is that?
I believe it's Bling, yeah.
Okay. So, the funny thing about me is I like to...
Tangible.
And again, I like tangible. That's the perfect word. I put you in my phone, like some of them have it where it goes right into your contacts. Mm-hmm. And the bottom line is if I've met a lot of people that night or at that event, and then I go, I met him. What was his name? And now he's in my contacts. But how many contacts do you have on your phone? And now I can't find you.
Oh, that's a really good point because I didn't think about that because I do that. I'll text people. I'll say, give me your number. I'll text you. And I text them my contact info and have them save it to their contacts. But I mean, they have the text message, I guess, but that could also get lost in their text space or they delete it.
It depends on how.
Or if they delete the text, yeah.
Well, that's it.
It's Blink, by the way, BLINQ.
Okay. But like I said, now it's in my phone and I go, what? That's why I like tangible. And that's me. The new younger generation, they want all, like you say, all digital, but on some level, you need to keep, it's sort of like everybody loves their computers until they don't work.
Yeah, and you made another good point before about your send out cards. And I know that a lot of offices are virtual. My office is virtual. But just speaking to the point that you made, go ahead, tell everybody what you were saying to me before about people who do have an office and you send these cards to.
So during COVID, couldn't meet people. So it was all phone calls and emails. Well, how many phone calls or emails can you make without a reason? Hi, I want to catch up. Okay, I can't call you once a week. Now I'm just becoming a pest. And I actually met the person that turned me on to this 3 years prior. And I thought it was a great idea. And I just never took the bait. I was so busy. I was always handwriting my cards, which is great. Everybody loves handwritten cards. Yes. I do too. And I was sitting at home during COVID, looking at my computer going, I'm so over this. I am so over my computer. I want human contact. I want something more than, hey, how you doing? Oh, yeah, this is terrible, blah, blah, blah. I want something beyond that. And I went to get my mail, and here was this card. And I had met her 3 years prior. Ran into her occasionally here and there, but never took the bait. And here's this card, and I'm having a depressing day. And this card made me laugh. And I turned it over, and there was her phone number, and I called her up, and I said, you've made my whole day. And I said, I said I was going to get involved with these cards. What do I need to do? And she said, are you sitting at a computer? Yeah. She goes, let's send a card. And I went, okay.
That's what you did to me. You keep doing these things to me.
Well, I sent a card, and of course, I had to come up with somebody's address real quick, so I sent it to my parents, who I'm talking to every night and seeing them because they were in my COVID circle, obviously. And I sent them a card. And my mother called me a week later and was like, oh my gosh, now I talk to them every night. And she goes, that card made our whole day. What comes in the mail? Bills and junk.
Yeah.
And I've sent out well over 3,000 cards.
I've gotten a couple of those thousands.
Yes, personally and professionally. And, people say, I like to handwrite them. And I said, well, you can do a handwriting analysis and whatnot. And if you look.
Well, what you do, you send a picture. You sent a picture, you did that. And then you sent a picture of my daughter to me for her birthday. You sent a picture of us. Oh. You sent one that had a positive affirmation in it. Yep. I remember.
Everybody I was.
I like them.
I called somebody today as a referral.
This is a nice picture.
I was taken at a networking event.
Yes, it was.
And I try to get pictures because, I can steal pictures off your Facebook page, but some of them I'm like, people, you really need to update. You need to update a photo because I really need something better. So I'm trying to get better at taking selfies, which I have another friend that's a selfie queen as far as taking them with people, and she's showing me how to hold the phone and whatnot. But no, it's just I'm on a phone call with somebody, and he's in Massachusetts, and we're talking, and he said, you mentioned that card thing during our conversation, and I explained it to him, and he goes, wait a minute. When I joined this group that I'm in, he goes, you sent me a card. I go, I did. Well, it was 3 years ago.
Wow.
And he pulls it out. We're on a Zoom call, and he pulls it out of he's in his desk drawer, and I'm watching him, and he's madly looking through, and he goes, and he pulls out the card, and he puts it on, he goes, I can't throw it away. I said, well, that's the other thing, is that people can't throw them away, and because it means something.
Yes.
So maybe I'm typing it, but I am handwriting the signature part. That's my signature, and whatnot. And it's changed me. I've changed a lot of people and said a lot of good things, business, personal, all the above.
I think it speaks a lot about that whole networking element of personalizing, of building a relationship. I'm interested in your upbringing and what led to you being so good at developing relationships.
I don't know.
And it might not be your upbringing. It could have been teens or 20s.
Well, my parents.
And by the way, Mo is 39, so just if you're wondering.
Yeah, no, I'm a senior citizen. I'm okay with that, and not by AARP standards.
39
either.
For life.
Yeah,
as my aunt would say.
My dad was changed career several times. He ended up over 30 years at IBM. My mom was a housewife and was interested from when they were first together. Young couple, no money, would go to yard sales and buy things that she liked and she loved. So they got into the antique business. When I was born, they had too many things. They couldn't afford new things. They needed to get rid of some of the other things. So one of their close friends got my mother started in a business. Load up your station wagon, put in a table, load up some things that you want to move because you want better things for your own collection, so to speak. And, take the kids and off we go. And my parents did their first antique show. My mother's been in business for 63 years.
Wow.
So as a young kid, I would go shopping and chasing the wild antique. Go to antique shows and meet my mother's friend, meet people. So at a young age, believe it or not, I was very shy. Somebody would ring the doorbell and I'd run to the door and wouldn't open it. So, but somewhere along the line, it was just sort of like, who are you? And, oh, that's my mom and that's my dad. And I broke out of my shell. And it just was kismet from there. I started working in my mom's shop when I was 10 years old. So I started selling at a very young age. But I just love people. I love, as my kids say, I give them the third degree. I don't look at it that way. I want to know who you are, where you came from, what you're about. You know what I mean? And it's not being nosy. That's how my kids, because they're my kids, look at it. And I said, I just want to know about them as people.
Don't worry. My kids say I speak to anybody and everybody. It's partially true.
Well, I will. Trust me, if you've been with me at certain occasions. I mean, I literally was with somebody in my car for work, stopped at a red light, jumped out of my car, ran to the car in front of me, knocked on the window. Unfortunately, I scared the poor person that was in the car ahead of me, rolled down the window and handed my business card and said, I need to connect with you. Please call me. And I'm not a crazy woman. And I ran back and got in my car. And the person that was with me went, I can't believe you just did that. And I said, maybe they'll call, maybe they won't. I have this phone number because it was on the side of his van and whatnot. And we have been doing business together for 7 years.
Wow, that's incredible. Back to the antique show. I'm interested in that first conversation that you can remember. of maybe the first sale or that first conversation, where that spark of relationship happens that you can think about?
Well, especially in the antique business, people always want to know, how old is that? Mm-hmm. Tell me about that. Mm-hmm. And I went, yeah, I don't know anything about that. Mm-hmm. Like, I was young. I didn't know that. And I go, but let me get to the person that can, which was my mother and or my father, who was potentially helping somebody else. So I learned at a young age that if you don't know the answer, don't make it up. Although, as I got older, I would say, hey, I don't have the answer for you, because I used to watch my mother shop when they would go chasing the wild antiques or be away at antique shows. And I would say, do you want the truth or would you like a story? And they'd look at me and they go, what do you mean? And I said, well, the truth is I don't know anything about what this is. I can tell you it's a tool and this is what it was used for. I don't know if it's 100 years old or 150 years old, or I can't tell you its origin or anything like that. I go, but I can give you a really good story. And they went, okay. And I would make up a story. And they would a lot of times buy it because they liked the item, interests them, whatever, sure. And whatnot. And it just kind of blossomed from there. Because there's lots of interesting things. Plus, I collect. Unfortunately, I collect way too many things. Ask my husband that. Borderline hoarder. No, I'm not but I just like the interaction. It's all about the interaction with me. Some are good, some are bad. And I've honed, to me, it's natural, but I guess I've honed in on that through my years of experience. Mm-hmm. I don't accept rejection well. So, meaning that if something doesn't work, I want to figure out what I did wrong or what went wrong so that I can correct it moving forward. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to say it's rejection, but you know what I mean? I'm always learning. Mm-hmm. I want to learn something new every day.
Mm. I think about the book Blink and Malcolm Gladwell. He talks about whether is it intuition that we have, like you said, like when we talk about relationships, is it intuition? Or is it a learned behavior that we might not be aware of? And when I think of, go ahead, you were going to say something.
I was going to say, it brings it brings to mind. I do many things. I don't know that it's learned. I just think it comes for me. I feel it came naturally, but it is a learning experience.
That's what the book's about. Is that he looked at all these people and asked them, how did you know that? Scientists and all these, and police officers, and how did you know that? And they go, I just knew. Gut was what comes up, right? My gut, my instincts. And what he uncovers in this book and what he discusses is that you're put in a situation so many times that you start seeing things that become instinctual to you. They are. I just did a course, a 3-day course recently. And in one of the slides, they said, all right, so there's these words. There's a whole paragraph of words. That makes sense, of course, a paragraph does, but it doesn't work visually for our listeners here. And it was count how many F's are in this paragraph, right?
Okay.
And, some of us said 4, some said 6. And what the true number was 10. And it was because we weren't counting the word of. We were skipping over it because we see it so often, right?
Yep.
Because we see it so often, our mind skips over it. So I'm relating it back to this, where because we've done something, an interaction of like, hey, how are you? What's your name? Where are you from? What do you do? We do it so often that becomes second nature to us.
Yes.
That we do it, we don't realize we even did it. And so at the end of it, we're like, you speak with somebody, say your kids, and they go, so where was that person from? Oh, that person's from Arizona. They've been in sales for 10 years. They have this kind of business. They have 3 kids and a dog. And you're like, your kids look at you, go, how'd you do that? You go, I don't know. I just do it.
Right.
But you've been doing it since you were 10.
Well, I laugh. I teach continuing education classes to insurance agents for their credits, and try to have an icebreaker. Some of them I know, and I've known them for years, and others are brand new. I don't know anything about you. And I don't have time because I'm there to teach a class, but I want to find out. And so I started doing a little icebreaker at the beginning. Tell me 2 truths about yourself and 1 lie. Mm. It's very funny how people can't even think of something to say. And I'm like, I'm get more bogged down with I want a good lie that people aren't going to go, well, that's not true. I had a gentleman and he said, I was on such and such TV show in the audience and I asked the guest speaker of the show if she would marry me. And I'm like, oh, well, that's a lie. And then he goes, and I was asked to be on, The Biggest Loser, and I wasn't fat enough. And I'm like, okay, well, all right. Now
we're getting somewhere.
And now he gave a third one, and I'm going, I don't believe any of them. And everybody's around the room, and it was really funny because like I said, he gave us 3 examples. 2 where I thought they were all wrong, but they weren't. And it was just like, wow, I need to have coffee with you because that's interesting to me. But I had people, excuse me, that just couldn't come up with a lie.
Let's play with our audience. 2 truths, 1 lie. We'll reveal the answer by the end of the podcast.
2 truths and 1 lie. I'm 63 years old.
Oh, no, you already gave your age at the beginning.
Oh, shoot. All right, darn it. I said I wasn't AARP qualified.
Go ahead. Next one.
Whenever I've changed, oh, wait. Now you're putting me on the spot.
I know.
I already know what my lie is. So I can deadlift 195 pounds.
Okay.
I have moved 12 times in my life.
Okay.
And I am an extrovert.
Okay. Oh, well, come on. All right.
I got to give him something.
I'm going to try to remember to ask you by the end of this so that our audience can play along with us. And for 2 truths, 1 lie with me, my Den 10 is the first business that I started. I have a sales team of 3 people, and I was on the ski team. So one of those is a lie. All right. So remind me at the end to bring that up.
Okay.
All right. I'm going to make a little note. I'm going to make a note.
I think I know, but I'm not sure.
Should we just do the answers now so we don't forget? Let's do them. All right.
Okay.
I'll give you my answer to you then.
Go ahead.
And then you'll give me yours.
All right.
All right. So I know you're an extrovert.
Yep.
And moved 12 times or deadlift. I don't know. You're pretty strong. That's the one. It's so funny because you're a strong woman, man. You are. I'm going to say the deadlift though. I think that you're a mover and a shaker. Oh my goodness. You can deadlift.
Well, I couldn't today,
so
but
how
yes,
many times
that was
did you really move then?
Me in my life? 3.
Only 3 times. Oh wow. Okay. All right. I knew you were a strong person. Look at that.
Yeah.
All right. So which one was for me? So I said Denton's the first.
Yeah.
What did I say?
3 salespeople.
I can't remember the last one.
I can't either. Denton wasn't your first business.
No.
You're too much of a.
No.
There's backstory that I don't know.
Yeah, it wasn't. I didn't realize it either. Actually, I was. The word entrepreneur was a hard word for me to accept for myself.
Why?
I think it was because I maybe held it in a higher regard, and so I was like, I'm not there. Like I'm not that person. I worked out of college. I got a job right away with Yellow Book. Okay, and then I got another sales job and another sales job, and hired and fired. And
do you think that was from your upbringing?
Well, I like it. I'm being interviewed now.
Well, no, It's a valid. I'll tell you why I'm asking that question, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Go ahead. Give me your answer. Do you think that's from your upbringing?
Taking the sales jobs or taking a job right out of college? Yes.
Well, no, that the entrepreneur you didn't feel was in your wheelhouse, so to speak. You know what I mean?
So there's a little bit more to that. So the reason why I didn't relate to it right away was because I saw myself as an employee all those years. So for 15 years of my life, I saw myself as somebody who needed to get a job and was only validated through that job as being successful. And that was incorrect for me.
Right.
It wasn't true. And it was not only was it incorrect, but it also wasn't true when I looked back. was that all throughout those years of working all of those jobs, I was always doing a side hustle of sorts. I was starting my marketing business. I had multiple DBAs that I had put out there, that I had started business cards. And that part relates to my upbringing.
Right.
Because my father he's still a practicing physician's assistant. And growing up, I didn't know this. I only found this out recently through asking him these questions. He had actually stopped practicing for a short period of time and partnered with my uncle to do an aloe business together. And they were working on this aloe business together. And something happened. I think there was a big freeze or something, like climate freeze there was. And so the money wasn't flowing, and having children and everything, my father needed to go back to his profession. So he went back to being a PA. So I only knew him as a PA.
Right.
But I also knew him as somebody who also had a side hustle. Right. And he would sell aloe infused, buying aloe from my uncle. My uncle was able to still continue with that business. Right. And aloe infused products he would make. My father is a chemist is by heart, from his heart. He's a chemist, passion. I didn't speak that properly, but I'm also not used to being interviewed. So he would make hair and skincare products and would sell them, wholesale them to people who would distribute them. And I would help him package. I would help him bring them and deliver them. Later, he then partnered with my uncle to do a business. My uncle had a salami company. My uncle is an entrepreneur, had a salami company, and my father helped him with that. But he was still a PA, and I would, of course, be part of the whole helping process. So later in life, when I was in sales, moving now. So by the way, those years are like grammar school, high school for me. Mm-hmm. And then now later in life, I'm in sales, I'm in marketing, I'm doing Yellow Book, I'm doing really well. And my father is wholesaling still his hair and skincare products. Right. And he develops this balm. And he's telling me about it. And I said, well, that's really cool. And I was like, well, why don't you package it as your own? And he goes, well, I don't know how to do that. Well, I was like, I know how to do that. So that's when we developed Sol Botanique together. Gotcha. And we actually developed this company. And I wrote an entire business plan for it. I did a whole marketing strategy. We went to conferences for it. We were prospecting. I was cold calling. We made these little jars. I was going to salons and handing them out. I had some on consignment. I was making sales in it. But I find it, well, the reason I asked is because I've changed my careers. When I've left one industry, I literally left the industry and went into something totally new. I graduated college and I have 2 degrees and I need to get a job. I need a job. I want to buy a car. I want to pay my bills. And I became a buyer, believe it or not. It's a long story I won't even get into. I became an electronics buyer. Back in the day before video, it was a new thing. You know, when you carried that big, huge camera and the big battery pack. Oh, yeah, I've seen them.
Okay, so I was an electronics buyer. And working for a private department store. It was a chain, and the CEO bought the local store and wanted to take it and make it a private department store, Hudson Valley based. That's where I became the buyer for. And I'm looking at the pitfalls. I had worked in an electronics department at another store, and I'm looking at the pitfalls. And I said, I need to go into business. I need to open, back in the day before everybody was selling VHS tapes and VCRs and whatnot. Went to my dad and I said, I need to open a store and rent videotapes, right? That was a big thing. Of course, now everybody's listening is probably laughing, going, who has VCRs anymore? Who has video? But people still have them. But this was back in the day. Right. I would have, and yes, it was short. It was long enough life before then they came out with the CDs and the Blu-rays and all that. But I wanted to open a business. And would it still be open today? No, I would have already sold it by now. I would have sold it to one of the big conglomerates that opened up one of the big video stores, because that's what happened. Somebody else did it. But I went to my dad and said, I've got this business up, and I wasn't brave enough to go to a bank and take a loan. And so in my career path, unfortunately, I've always worked for somebody. That's why I asked that question, because my son would love to be an entrepreneur. And I'm like, do it. Do it. I didn't do it. I wish I did do it. And today, everybody says to me, you need to have your own business. And I go, yep. And they said, your passion. I have a passion.
So you said you're 63 years old?
I am.
we're going to talk about that in 2 seconds. I want to just talk about a little bit what you just said there about being an entrepreneur and business loan and the guts or whatever it is. And I think that that's part of why I wasn't associating, was the guts and all that. And so just to kind of like wrap up my little story there about Soul Botanique. So I did all of that. Then I did a little marketing business after that. It was like My Content Design or something like that, or Mespo Content Design, I think it was. And I forgot about all of them. And then it was when I was writing Den10 and working on Den10 and everything that I was working with my business coach, that we were talking about the entrepreneur and everything. And she's like, well, you're an entrepreneur. And I'm like, no, I'm not. I just was working. She's like, no, wait, you had all these other businesses. And you got Michael Esposito Inc. where you're doing this and that. You got all these they're businesses.
Right.
You're an entrepreneur.
You are.
And so it was hard. One thing about the business loan I'll say is I did take one. But it's not something I would say is needed, necessary, or recommended to anybody out there either. Well, is that it's you have to be very strategic in it and understand it and understand what you're getting into, because you are getting into something when you're doing that. And I want to go back to you and your age. I'm very fortunate in this by being able to sit in this seat and interview people. And I literally, and I don't, I mean, I do say literally a lot, but I guess it's not always true.
Okay.
I literally, because now I started double booking these podcasts, which is just an amazing opportunity now. I ended a podcast right before you came in with a gentleman who is 69 years old today, or during this interview, but started his entrepreneurial journey at 65 years old.
Oh, sure.
So you got 2 years.
Okay.
So I'm going to give you 2 years.
2 years, huh?
To figure out what it is that you want to do. But he was in sales for all these other companies prior. And at 65 years old, he said, and there's a little preview for his podcast, but he said he went to bed one New Year's night, and it just came to him of like, what am I doing? What's my purpose? Why am I here? I
know, without putting it out there.
Right, but you are.
I think I know what I want to do. I know what people tell me I should do. I'm just not sure how to make it into a business.
All right. So what do you want to do?
Well, if she listens to this, I have a friend who says, you got to call Mo. Mo knows. That's what she said the name of my business should be. Mo knows. I know. And if I don't know, I'm going to find out.
And Modell's is out of business.
Yeah,
so you could do Mo.
But I just like helping people. So and I've helped lots of people in lots of various and sundry ways. And I don't know that I could say, okay, well, now I would like to get paid for that. It's more of consulting work, so to speak. And I don't know. So I'm more used to a tangible. So I have to break I have barriers in my own brain that I need to break.
Well, let's think about this for a second. So you work at Puro Clean.
Yep.
And you said you're more tangible.
Mm-hmm.
What does the sales process look like for you right now at Puro Clean?
Well, here's the funny part, and I will tell, and I've told many people this, I don't sell. We're a service company. So theoretically, I don't have I can talk to you about the business. I can tell you exactly what we do. It's not the same. Every job is different. I have nothing to sell until you have an event. So,
with that loaded question in mind,
okay,
what's tangible about Puro Clean outside of obviously the service that they provide?
It's a service that we provide.
Right.
So I don't consider myself selling.
Which is cleanup, restoration, just so everybody knows.
Right. I don't consider. That's why I don't consider it sales. When you work with anybody or purchase something from somebody, unless it's something you already know about and you've already done your investigation. If it's something high end, let me rephrase that. You go to a grocery store and you say, I'll buy these cookies versus those cookies. That it's not like that. My job is to keep my company name on the forefront of your mind. Okay. So I want to build a relationship. Like, I go out and I talk about, I don't really tell people I tell them where I work.
People ask.
They ask, I give them, it's so brief. Unless they want to know more. Okay. So I'm not selling, because to me, I don't have anything to sell. So to me, it's all about building the relationship. And I love when I give them my little, I don't even have when you go to certain places, your 2-minute elevator speech. I don't have a 2-minute elevator speech. It's probably about 30 seconds. We're a restoration company dealing in water, fire, mold, and biohazardous material, which consists of blood and sewage. That's it. I'm done.
And you should end it with, and if you don't know me yet, you should get to know me.
well, no. And I usually give them my business card, at which point I say, may you never need to call me, but I'm a great number to have.
Oh, and that's a good one. I like that.
That's my tagline. I have a girlfriend that she comes up with my tagline when she's introducing me to somebody before I even do.
I like it.
And it's the truth. I don't wish anybody any harm. I don't wish that they need me, but I can't tell you how many times people go, oh, you're like that other company. And I go, yep. And they go, yeah. What's their name? And I said, I'm not going to tell you, because if I tell you, their business is now on the forefront of someone's mind. If you can't remember that name, they didn't do their job.
I mean, that all goes back to the whole networking thing.
Yep.
Of the importance of networking, of the importance of being out there. So I'm going to go back to your little entrepreneurial journey here.
Okay.
And so
I've had many, and like you, I've had some.
We've identified that it's not tangible.
Correct.
You've also brought up the whole branding aspect of it just now, in terms of like being on the forefront of people's mind.
Yep.
So my question is, then what's different from that? And you got to call Mo.
I don't know how to. I don't know how to. Obviously, I'm trying to earn a living.
Of course.
I don't know how to put a price tag on that. Or, what I mean? That's the part.
Interesting.
It's not that I don't know what I have to offer. It's how to, and I've done it for several people. It's sort of, I got both my kids through college. Not me, my husband and I got both our children through college. They got an amazing amount of scholarship money that people don't know that's out there, or that's available to them, or what to do, or how to go about it. And the people that listened and paid attention, said, oh my gosh, I got my daughter $30,000 in scholarships. And I said, yep.
I see you, you enjoy networking so much and connecting with people.
Yep.
And it's like what you and I were having a conversation earlier before we were on air about me and the podcast. The reason why I have the podcast is because I enjoy this.
It's your passion, and it's in your cards.
Right. And so what I'm going with that is, if I looked at Den 10 as an insurance company and the podcast as kind of like I can only have one, then I would be stuck with one. And my coach, Merritt, when we talk about Den 10, the podcast, Forgotten Children of Haiti, all the different things, all the things I have my hands in, the conversation that all started with was, why am I choosing one? How do I bring the others in with the one that I'm in? And so with you in Puro Clean, I mean, look, you have a passion there. You have a great job there. You always speak so highly about the team that you work with and you're the owners of the business. And so you're very happy there, but you also have an opportunity with what you do as a connector. And I'm not saying to make it a business. Part of why you're here today, and we talked about it in the top of the show, is because you're so talented at connecting people. And so why not share that gift? I was just in a training, and I think I just brought it up earlier, and one of the things was talking about that, about we all have gifts. We've all been given gifts, and it's up to us. It's almost, I don't remember the quote exactly, but it's like, it's not right for us to hold our gifts our gifts aren't meant for ourselves.
Right.
They're meant for us to share with others.
Correct.
And so you have a gift of being able to network, and you shared some of those strategies and tips.
Yep.
Why not share it with others?
Well, I do, but I said, it's like you said, it's a gift,
there's so many ways you can
I'm
do it.
granted, but I don't know. Is it really a business, or is it something I just love to do?
I don't know.
You
Of
understand what I'm
course,
saying?
yeah.
That's where my dilemma.
But I could
falls.
see. So I'm kind of like just playing with you here. But I can see like you putting on like a webinar hosted by Puro Clean, right?
Mm-hmm.
A host Instagram. Let's call it LinkedIn Live, which is put on.
Oh, I'm liking this.
Put on by Puro Clean. It's sponsored by Puro Clean. It's hosted by Puro Clean. And you're on there. And all you're going to talk about is you're not going to talk about restoration or all the other stuff. Obviously, people are going to know what that is. You could do you said it's 30 seconds. So come on, 30 seconds. Get that out of the way. Boom, done. And you teach people how to network. And that could be like the Mo Gibbons show, the you gotta know Mo show on LinkedIn once a week, once a month. People log in, and you're putting
That's
your
awesome.
name and message on the forefront of everybody's
mind.
And you're just teaching them your gift. You're passionate about it.
I
and
am.
You know what? You're going to bring in people that you know, that you've met over the years, and then you're also going to meet your 3 new that you talk about.
Right. Wow. I just learned. See, there's my learn for today.
I mean, I just feel like
no, it's when I teach my classes, my CE classes to the insurance agents, they have to review my class, and basically I take their little reviews and I give them to the owners and send them to corporate, and they love my classes because I want people to have fun.
Yeah.
I mean, we all have. It's something you have to do. Why it doesn't have to be boring, you know? And when I have to sit on a class. We had a new computer program, and I had to sit and learn how to use the new computer. And it was awful. It was just terrible. And I thought, I get it. It's a computer program, and put this in and put that out. But learning should be fun. It shouldn't be, I got 10 more minutes. I got 10 more minutes. Oh, God, is he going to give us a break? When am I out of here?
You're animated, and you're a storyteller. And I'm also interested in that, in your storytelling personality. Where does that come from? Who's that? Who is that? Mom or dad or a relative?
My curiosity. I would say my mom. I have my family. I have amazing stories. So my parents, I lost my dad, but my parents met at Bard College. And that was a love story. They knew each other 2 weeks and eloped to South Carolina. Back in the day, they would have been married 72 years this year, but they eloped back in the day when you didn't do that. You just didn't do that. So I loved telling that story. People are like, wait, your parents knew each other 2 weeks? My father, and it was funny because going through some of the family things one day, and of course now they're somewhere in my mother's house, I don't know where, there were 2 telegrams. One that was sent to my mother's mom that said, "Dear Mom, remember Jonathan, he's now my husband." And he sent a telegram to his parents that said, "Dear Mom and Dad, remember Iris, she's now my wife." And I'm like, I'm a kid. And I go, wait, you only knew each other 2 weeks and you already met each other's parents? Like, who does that? And of course, it was a different time. It was a different generation. But then the story, my grandfather got on the phone and called this little town in South Carolina and said to the operator, because back in the day, find these kids, because he was afraid that they wouldn't come back home. They went to school at Bard College. And there's no phones in the rooms back in those days. It was in the hall. There's a knock on the door. You have a phone call. Well, they didn't know where they were going. How could somebody know that? And of course, they didn't think. They looked at the bottom where the telegram came from and whatnot. So, and my mother's going, don't go out there. Somebody's going to mug you. Well, my dad was 6'2" and he was built. And he went out, and it was his father, and he said, "Come home." Well, he grew up in New York City. My mother grew up in Kingston. Well, what do you come home? And he says, "Come to Kingston. We will be there." So they got in the car and they drove to Kingston, and they went to my great grandfather's house. And the two mothers were sitting there because they were married by a justice of the peace, which was not a religious ceremony. So as far as the family was concerned, they were not married. So they needed to get married. And the mothers are talking and trying to figure out when and what. And my great-grandfather said, Hilda, are you done? Iris, Lillian, are you done? Yep. He says, the wedding's today. And he called the rabbi. Then the rabbi came. And he started calling all the family. It was Sunday. What did everybody do? Everybody had Sunday dinner. Started calling the family. Hello, Ruth. Did you cook? Good. Bring it to the house. We're having a wedding. And the family it was a great story. My aunt and uncle stood up for my parents. It was Halloween. They were going to a New Year's Eve party. She was dressed, and you had to know my aunt and uncle. She was dressed as Carmen Miranda, and he was dressed as a Chinese houseboy. Sorry being politically incorrect, but back then, whatever. Mike had a cousin. He was a photographer, a professional photographer. There's not one picture of this wedding.
Oh, my goodness.
So all there is a story. So I've listened to these stories when there were no pictures. So I guess where I learned my storytelling from my family.
Yeah.
My grandmother told me stories and that my father never knew. Found papers in a desk in her, inherited a desk. She was still alive, but she gave me the desk when I moved into a home. And there were papers. My great-grandfather, when he came here, had his name changed.
From?
Well,
He came from
Russia. And he had his name changed from Otto Osius to Joshua. So I said, did they mess it up at Ellis Island? Or was that his real name? My father never knew. My father said, what are you talking about? I said, I have the court papers. He had his name changed. And my father always knew him as Joshua.
That's funny.
Was never brought up. So I started asking and listening to these stories. And these are stories, and if I can leave anybody with anything today, your family stories, write them down for your children. Write them down, because there are stories that I'm trying to do that and tell them to my children.
That's great.
Because they shouldn't be forgotten.
So you have a book in you then?
Well, no, I actually have a friend that's going through some health issues, and he's writing Monday memoirs. And somebody actually published his memoirs.
Oh, that's beautiful.
He happens to be a fabulous writer. I'm not a fabulous writer. I'm a great storyteller.
You are a very good storyteller.
I need somebody else to write that for me.
It's funny. That's probably how I learned also on my storytelling abilities. Is I was very curious, and I would ask my grandmother. She lived with us. I would spend nights with her where I would just ask her questions, and she would just share stories of the old days, right? Of how she met my grandfather and her father and all the different things.
Yep.
And what's interesting now that I think about it is my daughter Tenley, who's 5. She asks a lot of those similar questions. She'll ask about the olden days. She says, what was the olden days like, when they had CDs and MP3s?
Well, and I keep saying, well, it's a good thing Facebook didn't exist when I was young. I'm so thankful for that.
Oh, my goodness.
But there are still blackmail photos out there, let's face it.
Oh, my goodness.
But no, it's wonderful, and these things, they need to be shared. They really do. And there's great stories, and tons of them.
So you're very good at telling stories, and I think that also is kind of like the tie back to the relationships that you create and that you build on is the stories that you share. And I think there's like a vulnerability inside of these stories too, where you're sharing things. Like, you just shared something on the air, and you said, "Well, that might not be politically correct." But that was what it was.
Right.
And so rather than masking it or hiding it, it's part of the story.
Correct.
And, there's not much else to say about that other than you're being vulnerable. And I think that's where we connect, because there's plenty of people that we meet at networking events that we have a conversation with. They follow up, you have coffee with them. But it drops off. And it's like, why did it drop off? And it's because that connection never happened.
Right. Correct.
Right?
My mother will tell you, and she's said it for years, I never wanted to be a salesperson of any kind. And it's in my blood. I graduated college. I wanted to go into public relations. I wanted to go into personnel. I'm a people person. I am absolutely a people person. My mother would say, you could sell ice cubes to Eskimos. And I said, yeah, no, I really can't. Yes, you could. I said, only if I believe that the Eskimos need the ice cubes.
That's right.
So I have integrity.
Yes.
And that's really important to me.
Mm-hmm.
That, along with, I don't know if I can say this on the air, you can bleep it out. If not, you don't bullshit a bullshitter. You know what I mean? Like, I'm going to be honest. I know, I don't know, I this or that. And again, it is. I'm very truthful.
Mm-hmm.
About what I do and who I am and what I'm looking for or not looking for, as the case may be.
And that shines through. I think that when we're at networking events and someone comes up to you and just the first thing they do is hand you their business card, mm-hmm. that right there, I believe, because it's not always true. Like the person could be honest, they just don't know how to network yet.
Correct.
But it puts up that, oh, you're a salesperson.
Right.
And immediately that feeling that person is saying when they say, oh, you're a salesperson is, I don't trust you.
Yep.
And it's because of the approach
mm-hmm.
versus your approach, which is very warm, very friendly, smiling, talking, getting to know them, asking them questions about themselves.
But so are you. I mean,
well,
yeah,
this
but
show's
think
about
about
you.
Yeah, but I know. But, think about it. When we met, and first time I really met you was not the first time I met you. And you had to remind me.
Oh.
Yeah, and I
Denise's
didn't know
office,
that. Yeah. We were in an office and you were in a corner.
Yeah.
And I needed to talk to the business owner
yep.
who was making the decisions. Really, if I had my choice, I'd rather meet all the people in the office.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But it wasn't that kind of office, so
mm-hmm.
I couldn't do that. And then when I did meet you and you said, oh, I know you. And I went, okay, how do you know me? But that was very obviously, I could have come and gone and you would have said, yeah, you used to stop in. I don't know what you were there for.
Yeah. But
obviously paid attention.
Well,
so it even came through then, which I didn't even know.
Yeah, and it's listening. I mean, what you're talking about for me is the listening factor of like, I was sitting in an insurance office. I was not happy there. And it was because I just wasn't doing my life's mission. Some of the people that were there are happy. And I always, Denise started my career, so I give her props. And she's a tremendous person. She's
mm-hmm.
she's a great-hearted person.
Absolutely.
But she knows what she knows. And it's running her business the way that she runs her business. And for me,
Which makes sense.
And that's personal lines. And it means that you're just selling home and auto policies, just to kind of get in the weeds for a second here. And for me, I knew I wanted to work with business owners. And so it wasn't the right position for me. So anyway, so I was in that corner. But I'm going to talk about the listening here is that part of networking is also listening. And you can gain so much by just, look, if you're at a networking event and two people are talking, you are welcome to just kind of wander over and start listening. And if you can just start listening, you'll start getting some context to be a part of the conversation. And I remember you coming in. I listened. There was a claim that had happened. Somebody's house caught fire because of a fish tank. I have a fish tank. You were talking about Ireland and trips to Ireland. That's how I know you have planned trips to Ireland, by the way. You never told me. It was because you and Denise were talking about it. That's how I know about it. And so I listened to all these things to where when I was at a networking event and I was the solo person, I knew I had that in my brain of like, I know this woman. I know there's these 3 things I could talk to her about. Fish, you were in the office with me, and my wife wants to go to Ireland. Right. I know I can connect with her on one of these levels.
So when are you going to Ireland?
Oh, man, trust me. Devin she keeps saying, you promised.
Take the kids. It's phenomenal.
We do have to go. But
life is short.
No, we will go. I know that for sure. But so the skill of listening is very, very important. But back to you in what you did was you also shared.
Right.
You were there, and you were there for a claim that had been put through. Mm-hmm. But you weren't just talking about the claim. Nope. And this is what we're talking about, connection.
Right. I know. And when I walked into the office, what did I know? I know she had a pig. I wanted a pot-belly pig at some point in my life. I knew she was very involved with animals and the dogs and the horses and that's it. And it's people want to talk about their lives necessarily. I mean, some people do, some people don't. People don't listen. I was at an event or on a call, so to speak. It wasn't really an event. It was on a call. Ones, and I said, customers or people in general will tell you what they want and what they don't want. Mm-hmm. For example, I go into offices, and I had a gentleman in my very start of this career, and he said, I know you. I know your company. Come here once a year. I don't need emails. I don't need phone calls. I already send you all my business. And I went, okay. And I stopped going in there. And once a year I go in there and I drop off one thing that he does want from me. I give out desk calendars, the big blotters.
Yep.
And I bring it in. He says, thank you. I said, have a nice day. And I walk out. I get all his work. But I listened.
That's right.
And the other people aren't. And they're going in there and driving him nuts.
Yep.
Listen.
Yep.
The customers will tell you what they want or what they don't want or their fears. And that's what you need to work
on. Yeah.
Yep.
Another thing that you're very, that I think another element to it. So just to kind of like review a little bit. So the elements of networking, the masterclass from Mo's masterclass on networking. Do you want to go ahead and give us a little review on it? I'm going to add another element to everyone.
Basically, when you're networking, the first is make the connection, not to somebody that you already know. And if you do know them but really don't know them, maybe you need to connect and find out how you can help each other. I want the guy in the room or girl in the room that's standing there all by themselves. They will be thrilled. They will remember you always because you took them out of, I'm uncomfortable standing here, to, wow, I'm now involved. That's number one. Number two, you want to make 3 to 5 connections. I say 3 to 5 because some may be easier than others, but definitely 3. And not that you're not going to meet 10 or 15. Don't overwhelm yourself because you need to follow up, because the follow-up is the most important. And if you don't follow up, then it was a waste of time, yours and theirs.
Yep.
As far as that goes. But I love to network.
So your other element that you may not even be aware of that I think sets you apart and sets a lot of people apart that we network with, that we're very close with too because of the service that we do, is the boards that you serve on. And you serve on several non-for-profit boards. And that adds another element of credibility, of service, and another way to connect and meet new people. But
yes.
That's not why you do it, and I know that, so we'll talk about that as well.
It's not why I do it. There are people that ask to join boards, and their purpose is to join a board so they can put it on their resume, and they can network. They're strictly on that board for business, and they shouldn't be. That's all the wrong reason. And the other people on the board should know that. To me, it's an honor and a privilege to sit on a board, to be asked to be on a board. And me as a person, I won't take something on I can't do. I currently sit on 3 boards. I'm an active participant.
It's so important.
Unbelievably so. I'm about to become president of one of those boards.
Tell us about it. Is it the one I know? No, you go ahead. You don't want to spill the beans yet. That's all right.
I'm not going to be until I stepped up as they were having problems having our president step down. Life changed, different life events. Nothing sick or anything like that.
These boards take up a lot of our time.
Yep, and he stepped down because he didn't feel he was doing it justice. We had an interim person that stepped up for the end of his term. Well, now we have a nominating committee, and nobody was stepping up. And I said, this is a really important organization. I feel it's an important organization. And I said, well, I don't know that I can step up for it's a 2-year term. I said, I don't know that I can do 2 years. However, I'm willing to go to the owners because it's going to take some time away from my day-to-day work, and I don't want to, impede and, whatnot. But I'm for a year till we can hopefully find somebody that can that will step up and understand. And I said, but I don't know that I'm the fix. I'm the fix because again, I'm very honest. I said I don't know that that's going to help the situation. And they said, because I said we still need a vice president, and I'm the secretary for this organization. And I said, now we're going to need a secretary. And everybody loves me. They love my notes and makes sense, and if they're not there, they know what happened at the meeting.
A very important role.
Yes. Needless to say, they jumped for joy. Somebody heard I was stepping up, and I now have a vice president.
That spreads like wildfire.
But I still need a secretary. But I mean, I've been getting kudos from all these people. This is fabulous. I can't be happier. And I'm like, okay. And then I'm like, oh no, what have I gotten myself into? But no, not really. I mean, I think it's good. And like I said, if you're doing good out there, all these things, as far as networking, yeah, it is networking, but it's not. I'm there for other reasons, and the networking will just happen.
Well, I mean, I'm going to relate it to the networking for a second, but I do want you to talk more about the non-for-profit piece. Is on the networking side, it just, like I said, it adds that extra element of I'm here for Puro Clean, but I'm also I know one of them off the top of my head for you, not necessarily the one that you were just speaking about, but Kiwanis Club, right? You know, and you speak about the Kiwanis Club event, and all of a sudden the conversation shifts from, is this person trying to sell me something, or is this person trying to connect with me to buy something, to, oh, this person's doing service in our community and I want to learn more about it, and how do I get involved? And all of a sudden that relationship blossoms. Talk a little bit about the aspect for you of serving on these different boards and taking a role in the community and serving your community in this capacity.
I love the community that I lived in. I've lived here. Well, I didn't move into the area till I was 10. I had been coming here all my life because my great-grandfather...
Oh, when your sales career started.
Yes, when my great-grandfather moved to the area in 1888 and started the family business. So I'm rooted here. My husband's family came early on to this area, and he's lived here his whole life. So my children grew up here. This is my life. It's not just, oh, this is where I live and I live in a house or whatever. I was involved, obviously, with my children. They're grown. They're on their own. Unfortunately, they don't live in our community because there were no jobs here, but that's a whole nother story. And when my daughter graduated college, I said, well, now's my time to give back. I got a scholarship from Kiwanis when I was a graduating senior. I was nominated by somebody else. I was shocked. I didn't even know it was a thing. Never heard of Kiwanis in my life. My daughter got a scholarship from Kiwanis. And one of the things, I was talking to one of the members at the luncheon where she received her scholarship. I said, well, now that my kids are in college, I have more free time and it's time to give back, at which point I was handed an application and said, fill this out right now. And I went, and I said, okay, hold on a minute. I was changing careers, and the owner of the business that I worked for was a Kiwanian. So was the comptroller for the company, was also a Kiwanian. And he said, I would like you to be involved in a service organization. It's very important to be a well-rounded individual, period. Not for the business, but just to be well-rounded, you should. And so I went to this different service organizations and see what they had to offer, and Kiwanis was the one. I've been a member for 13 years. I've sat on the board for 9 years. I'm very active in it, and it's all about children, and it's all about giving back. I'm passionate about that. It's people are too self-centered these days. There's lots of nonprofits out there, very good ones and whatnot, but they're all struggling because of COVID. And a lot of events got canceled, and a lot of things couldn't be done, and so on and so forth. It's really important to me. It's part of who I am. And like I said, I don't want to say it fills a void. It's not a void. I feel good at night because I'm doing something good that can be measured, can actually be measured. We put on an annual show every year. We put on the show this year. We've given out over $1.5 million in scholarships to graduating seniors. We give away $20,000 every year. That's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot. And I'm proud to say I was one of those recipients of to a scholarship, which was pretty cool.
That is pretty cool. And I mean, I like that those owners did that whole service aspect, because you're right. It does create a well-rounded, I try to instill in my daughters, and I see it now where we're on their own just to give back, to give away what they have.
My son, when he, you try to instill good things in your children. When he was 13 and he got bar mitzvahed, he had to do a community project, and it could be anything he wanted. I wasn't involved in nonprofits back then. I was aware of People's Place, that's up in Kingston, and he wanted to do a food drive. And he literally went door to door. Of course, now they do food drives differently, obviously. And I said, well, he can't go door to door as this young child,
Sure.
And whatnot. And he had, I gave him, you need to tell them what you're doing and why you're doing this and so on and so forth. We went to give his donation. He did it for 2 weekends and went to People's Place and said, I have a donation. I did a food drive. And they said, okay. And they said, just bring it in. So we started bringing in the boxes. Well, I guess they expected him to bring in a box. He had collected over 500 pieces of food.
Wow.
And the pantry was like,
Full.
oh my gosh. They were shocked. And he had a good feeling and of purpose. And whatnot. And so it's good that we teach our children and we do these things.
It is, and it helps you live a life with purpose, and it's passed down. I mean, my parents taught it to me by starting their non-for-profit, and I'm hoping to instill that in my daughters, and it seems like it's caught. and at Den10, we do that very similarly. And I remember I was speaking with one of my VP of sales, Jim, and we were just talking about the Give Back program. And he said, I've been doing insurance for over 30 years, and I'm so happy to have a purpose. Like, he loves insurance because he'll tell anybody about this. I love it because I know what I'm selling helps people.
Right.
But when I shared with him the story about Forgotten Children of Haiti, and then also his church and the other non-for-profits that we link up with, he was like, it's so nice to also have a purpose.
Right.
And it's so true with what you're talking about with service and just having a purpose.
So here's something
others.
that people don't know. So Puro Clean is we are a franchise, but we are privately owned. There are 3 owners. And the company that owns it is called Pay It Forward Partners.
Oh, right. And the owner's company, yes.
Yes, it's called
Pay It. Telling me this.
So that's Pay It Forward Partners owns Puro Clean. And that's one of the things that we do.
This Puro Clean franchise, just to be clear.
There are 2. Yes.
Right.
We have 2.
The franchise owners own a company called Pay It Forward Partners. And that company owns this Puro Clean franchise.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And we do things all the time, but we fly under the radar. Yeah. So they were thrilled when I came on board, and I had nonprofit experience. And I did, for several years, we actually load up a truck, one of our trucks, fill it with toys, and we just drive around to certain neighborhoods and give out toys. Throw them from the back of the truck. That's awesome. Can't tell you, we have Santa with us and whatnot. And we do it before we have our sort of company party. Mm-hmm. And it's so nice to have us all together as a company doing this. As well as, we usually adopt several families and things of that nature. But again, under the radar. Mm-hmm. Somebody said, oh, you're missing your photo opportunities and you should be putting this on Facebook. And I go, that's not why we're doing this. Mm. We did wind up on Facebook because people started taking pictures of us driving around,
sure,
and whatnot, which was kind of funny because we didn't do it. Somebody's like, it's a great marketing opportunity. And I'm going, yeah, but that's it is and it isn't.
It's an interesting one. I mean, like when I talk about Den10 and what we do, the reason why I talk about it a lot is because it's the reason why I have an insurance company.
Yep.
So I have to talk about it because I don't have an insurance company to have an insurance company and sell insurance and sell. I have it because I want it to support my non-for-profit. And so I think that you should share it because that's also part of Pay It Forward is the company that owns the Puro Clean. So it's like it only makes sense. Puro Clean doesn't exist without Pay It Forward.
Correct.
So it does make sense to share it, and you certainly should or could. It's a choice. But I'm even more interested because you guys are getting something out of this. In the company culture and how it affects that Christmas party.
Oh, it's like I said, one year we went around and whatnot, and We still had a lot of toys on the trucks. And everybody wants to go home and get dressed up for the our Christmas party. And I said, I know somebody and somewhere we can bring these toys. It was a women's shelter where women that are displaced, single families, single parent. And they said, well, where is it? And I said, we can't. I know where it is, but we can't just go there. It's not out in the public. It's not like you can Google it and get this address and whatnot. I said, I'm going to have to make a couple phone calls. And I called somebody that I knew who said, let me make a phone call. And of course, this is on a Saturday. Made 3 phone calls, got through. They said, they're expecting you. Well, they expected us to show up in a van and hand them a few toys. And we showed up in a van and handed them, we said, all wrapped. They're all wrapped. And with the toys that we would male or female, and we did it by age groups. So this is 0 to 5, this is 5 to 12, and this is 12 and above. And I said, so it doesn't matter. And they went, and they're already wrapped. And they went, oh, bring them in. And they brought out a little cart. And I said, yeah, we have bags. Like we have. And they were, oh my gosh. So it was just, they were overwhelmed. And like I said, it was a wonderful feeling. It wasn't like, oh no, what are we going to do with this? Put them away for next year. No, we want them to be given out. We stopped at the Boys and Girls Club and gave everybody footballs and basketballs one year during this whole thing. And it was just, they're like, are these for us? And it's just so rewarding to see the smiles and the happiness and whatnot. And I do it for any nonprofit that I'm not. So, People's Place is a big one in Kingston, and they have Project Santa, where they actually have families come in, and they change their whole store to be like a toy store, but they let families come in and pick their toys. So it's not, oh, you got a 5-year-old, you got it, and they give them some dignity and give them a little purpose that they can come in. So I stood on the roof in 100-degree humidity weather, raising money in July for Project Santa.
That's
so
cool.
I work for, I'll do any of the nonprofit. They all need our help. And we all need to help each other with our nonprofits and whatnot. It's really important. And it's a good feeling. I know that I've done something good for somebody else.
That's so cool. I'm very touched right now by all those stories. It's funny because I never know how they're gonna. It's interesting. They certainly land with me. They're very touching, and it's so nice to hear you doing that work. It reminds me of a few things I want to make sure that people are aware of. Is that no matter where you live, there are people who are food insecure. There are people who are also I don't know if it's toy insecure or whatever it is, but financially insecure. And what that means, just to help people understand, is that they could be working families. These are families that are maybe working 2-3 jobs, but they're only earning enough to keep the lights on, to keep the heat on, to pay their rent, they own a car and a cell phone because they need the car to get to work. They need the cell phone to answer the phone for their kids or for anything. And that's where that word insecure comes from, is that they have just enough to make it. And so these kids are home and their pantries are empty. They don't even know what I remember LeBron James talking about this, that he didn't even know what a pantry was growing up. Right? So they don't even know what a pantry is. And so they don't have food in the home. And they're lucky. Dave Chappelle talks about he would have his jacket on at home. Yep. He would wear a coat inside because the heat's not on. So they have these things that we view from the outside perspective. Oh, they got a car, they went into the grocery store, whatever it was, or the deli, but they don't have enough to be able to just go on Amazon and hit buy now. They don't have enough to just walk into Hannaford and pick up their shopping order. And so these are the people that you're helping, Mo. And that if you could find your local food pantry and find your local People's Place or something like the sort to donate some things for these kind of families. So
I know in our area, the Boy Scouts, which is an organization, unfortunately, that's sort of disappearing, which is kind of sad. They're doing, they go out and put bags, and hopefully people will fill them up, and then they bring them. And we used to go and help sort. And with the churches and the different organizations, and it's amazing. but these people that are helping are starting to disappear.
Well, I think they go in different places, to be fair, because I was once a Boy Scout, but I don't volunteer at the Boy Scouts. I volunteer in other places and other capacities. So, I think that they go in different places, but it is important, and you're right, that there is a big need and some big shoes to fill. Well, you're filling them.
I try.
You're somewhat, I mean, we can only do what we can do.
Right.
And so speaking of that, your life mantra is live life with no regrets. Mm-hmm. Your thoughts on that?
As I'm getting older and wiser, I hope, we've all done things in our lives that we're not happy about or proud of or whatnot. And we can fix those things, potentially. But you should live life with no regrets. I went to Alaska. My husband and I turned 50. It was our 25th wedding anniversary. And we were in Mount Alyeska, and we're taking a gondola to the top of the mountain. And there's a gentleman on the gondola with us, and he has this black case, huge. And I said, you know me, ask questions. What's that? And he said, oh, that's a hang glider. He says, I'm going to hang glide down. And I said, that's really cool.
Oh, my goodness.
And I said, that'd be really cool. My husband's afraid of heights. He's like, yeah, no. And the guy says, well, you can actually pay and do it. And, they tether you to. And I go, oh, my gosh. And he goes, well, you can do it if you want, but I'm not. And I went, okay. And I didn't do it. And then on that trip, zip lining was just starting to be a big thing.
Sure.
And we're in Ketchikan. And I said, oh, my gosh, they have zip lining. And he went, nope. And I said, okay. And he goes, you can do it if you want. Nah, we're not going to do it together. And now I'm like, and I came back, and it was an amazing trip and it was wonderful. And I went, why did I say no? Well, I don't need him to hold my hand. I mean, I love him to death.
Sure.
But I don't need him to hold my hand, and I regret it. I said, wow, because I don't know that I'm going to ever, could I have the opportunity to hang glide? Yes. Or zip line? Yes. But not in Alaska. We did take a helicopter ride, and we hiked a glacier for 2 hours. That was amazing. But there's certain things that I want to do, and I don't know why I need somebody to say, yes, it's okay, and I'll do them with you. So I've started to think twice when somebody, I say, what do you think about this? And you go, yeah, no. Well, maybe you're the wrong person to ask to do it with, but I don't want to live life with no regrets. And I've done certain things to try to do that. I have a sad, it's sad to me. I have somebody that had a great friendship. Friendship kind of got displaced. That's
an interesting one to use. Sure, I like it.
Displaced. And I tried to reconnect and got no response. Phone call, text message. I believe in talking face to face. I sent a card and said, you know what, I've learned things in my life, and one of the things I've learned is live life with no regrets. I regret that when we saw each other and we said, let's do lunch, and I said, yeah, let's not make it one of those let's do lunch that never happens.
Right.
And I reached out to her to have lunch. It didn't happen. And I said, so this is my last attempt. We had a great friendship. I don't understand, and I can't apologize for something I don't know. Obviously, something went south. I don't know what I've done. I can't ask you for forgiveness when I don't know what I've done.
Right.
This is my last-ditch attempt. And it's unfortunate to say that I got no response. So I said, well, I know I have no regrets. I've done everything that they've given me the power to do. And, I have to live with that.
Yeah.
But I know that as opposed to, well, I don't know why Michael won't call me anymore. Well, did I try to find out why Michael won't call me? You know what I mean?
Yes.
So I do that. So that's really important to me. And when people say, somebody posted a picture on Facebook of a video of a moose. I thought it was live and she had taken the video. It wasn't. And I said, they're fabulous creatures. I've been blessed to see them on several occasions.
Right.
And she said, she replied to my message and said, that's one of my dreams, also to go to Ireland. And my answer to her was, life is short.
Yeah, like what you said to me. Yeah.
Life is short. You know what? We never know what's going to happen or where our future takes us. Mm-hmm. So live life with no regrets if you have that opportunity. Don't say tomorrow, because nobody's promised tomorrow.
Right. I love that. I love that you shared that. Thank you so much for sharing that. But I also think that decision is, to not ride the zip line or do that, is, you said it led you to that mentality today.
Yes.
So when is your hang gliding trip?
Oh, I don't know. I was if I have the opportunity to. It's not something that's like.
Oh, okay. It was more in the moment. In the moment you wanted to do it. Yeah, gotcha.
So when I went to Las Vegas, my last trip to Las Vegas, they now do hang gliding, zip lining on the street. Well, they now have several places. About, yeah. I wanted to do it downtown in the old. I saw a friend of ours did it, and the way they're harnessed, they were like flying, and I was like, and I showed it to my husband, and he said, okay, that looks pretty cool. And so when we went to Vegas, we went downtown. Yeah, unfortunately, it was booked up for like a week. Like, it never occurred to me.
Book ahead, right? So hard.
Next time we go, I'm going to be hang gliding down that strip.
All right. And
so
go ahead.
I already know that's going to happen. That's in my future.
All right. And what about, up by us, what is it, Mohonk, I think, has zip lining? Is it Mohonk? I know Hunter has zip lining.
Hunter has zip lining.
Yeah. So we're going to get that checked off your box. I'll go ziplining with you. I love it. I mean, I've never done it to that capacity at Hunter, but I have done it in West Virginia when I went whitewater rafting on the Gauley. Okay. And part of the trip, it was a 2-day trip because it's far, obviously. Right. And what they offer is where you stay is there's a ziplining tours throughout there.
See, I don't want to just zipline. I wanted that little extra oomph on the experience.
Oh yeah, I get it.
So yeah, I'm. It'll happen.
It's fun.
I already know where it's going to happen, when it's going to happen, and whatnot.
So I guess I have zipline. I took that away from myself again, like I did with the entrepreneur thing, huh?
My goodness, what am I going to do?
We're learning things on this podcast. Mo, I am so happy to have you come in. It's always nice to have someone come in and teach us something new. And I have to tell you, when I first joined the chamber back years ago, I did join just thinking, I'm here to get business. Your story about joining boards, my joining of committees and boards was to get business. I soon learned that that wasn't my purpose on those boards, and my mentality changed. But you were someone who I felt, there's many others too, but you that have stuck through the years with me, I felt was someone that took me under her wing and taught me the ropes. And so I'm so honored to have you on today. And I'm honored to have you as a friend. I really am. Very special. Well, thanks, Mo. I'm getting up and giving you a hug. All right. She's hugging me, people. This show is sponsored by Den 10 Insurance Services, helping businesses get the right insurance for all their insurance needs. Visit den10.io to get a quote. DENTEN.io. And remember, when you buy an insurance policy from Den 10, you're giving back on a global scale. Hello, all my entrepreneurs and business leaders, and welcome to the Michael Esposito Show, where I interview titans of industry in order to inform, educate, and inspire you to be great. That's a wrap. I'm hugging. It's a wrap. Wait, before I do that, we want to make sure everybody knows that Mo's contact info will be in the show notes. Thank you for listening to the Michael Esposito Show. For show notes, video clips, and more episodes, go to michaelespositoinc.com/podcast. Thank you again to our sponsor, Den 10 Insurance Services, helping businesses get the right insurance for all their insurance needs. Visit den10.io to get a quote. That's DENTEN.io. And remember, when you buy an insurance policy from Den 10, you're giving back on a global scale. This episode was produced by Uncle Mike at the iHeart Studios in Poughkeepsie. Special thanks to Lara Rodrian for the opportunity and my team at Michael Esposito Inc.